Hello and welcome. We are about to demonstrate our art-inspired menu. This is based on the Forces of Nature menu that we did for the Rockwell Museum. My name is Sarah Haslett. This is my chef partner, Luke Houghton. And hello. And we're going to begin with the simple stones dish, which is your first course. So it's not every day that you get a container full of rocks shipped to your house, so you're welcome. First time for everything. Oh, maybe first time actually, I don't know. But you're gonna basically put both the stones and the potatoes into the oven. We use the same tiny little tray. Not everybody has one of these handy. And when this comes out, obviously your tray is gonna be hot, so be careful. Ours is not so much at this moment. So we're just going to place the stones on your plate or in a dish. The purpose of the stones is to keep the potatoes warm while you're plating up the rest of your courses. You're putting everything together so that you can enjoy the lecture afterwards. That's really the goal here. And this course is just inspired by like walking by a stream and looking down into it and, you know, seeing all the random stuff that you see and how that, when we were kids, was enjoyable and now it's something we just ignore. So this is saffron aioli that I'm popping on the top here. Yours may be a little bit thicker than what I'm working with here. If it is too thick for you, we typically tighten it up for shipping purposes. Just add like a half a teaspoon of water at a time and stir until you come back to a spot that, a consistency that you like. And yeah, we're just using food as a medium for art here. Go. Super simple. Dotted the potatoes with the aioli, and that's that one done. And we didn't have to do anything.
Looks beautiful.
Thanks, I appreciate
Glad I
it.
could help.
Yes, excellent, great job. All right, our second course is Spring Sentiments. So this is New York State steelhead smoked trout that we have here. Those of you who got the vegetarian version, that is carrot lox that we made, which is carrots marinated with some soy, miso, a little bit of liquid smoke, some sherry vinegar, and a few other spices to just echo that sort of feeling. And Luke and I are going to play it at the same time on this, and then we'll see what happens with both of our platings.
So you'll kind of see two different minds at work.
Right. Artistic expression. We're not going to look at each other if we can help it, but I bet you he's going to cheat.
It's not a win or lose.
It's always a win or lose. All right, so for this dish, we have the trout, which there's 4 ounces in each package, which is enough for 2 portions. So we're gonna share this part.
Where does this trout come from?
This trout is from the Hudson Valley, actually. So it's a New York State locally farmed fishery. And they raise the steelhead, which, I mean, typically when you think of trout, you're not thinking of this color. It's not. Did you ask Siri a question?
No, I asked you a question.
It's fine, I can take it out. Cancel Siri.
Can you patch it together?
Yeah. Okay, so we're back. Siri made an appearance in the middle of our video. And that's because we're chefs and not videographers. But we're doing it anyway. All right, so I'm starting with the trout, and Luke looks like he's starting with the rhubarb. So this rhubarb chutney has some simple rhubarb, a little bit of lemon juice, and then some raisins, which not only does that add, like, I think, like a lovely deep flavor, but also a good deal of pectin, which thickens up the jam and gives us really beautiful consistency. So otherwise rhubarb can sort of turn to mush, and not like a pleasant mush.
Is it rhubarb season right now?
It's the beginning of rhubarb season, so yes, this is a timely plate. I mean, spring sentiments, and here we are. just sort of, you know, playing with our food, dotting it up. There's a touch of vanilla to this rhubarb as well.
Where does this trout come from?
We talked about that already. It's
We
from the
started
Hudson
to
Valley.
series.
Oh, that's why. So this trout comes from the Hudson Valley here in New York State, and usually when you see trout, you don't think of this color, but this is steelhead, and so very similar in color to salmon, but texturally still firm like trout. Salmon's a little softer depending upon the style. Can't finish this plate without a little bit of goat cheese for me, which represents true spring in New York, which is snow, of course. So that's what this is. Like, there is no escape. We had snow last week on Wednesday. You love the snow like more than normal people.
I love the snow in the winter. Right, this time of year it's useless.
Yeah, it really doesn't do anything.
Just make the switch. I know it's not a race, but if it was, I won.
It's not a race. Okay. And there's a little bit of dill. Did you add? Oh, you did. Oh, you really did win. Well, yours is way more minimalist than mine. I will give you that. It's interesting. It's usually the opposite.
I use the term of placed but not place.
Yeah.
Things come together organically.
I agree with that. We're not really like tweezer chefs, at least not today. All right, so.
I say that, but I must have.
Yeah, of course you did, because I didn't want to be that person. So Luke versus Sarah. I mean, mine is heavier. His is beautiful. That's how that goes. Mine also has the gluten-free crisp bread. So if you ordered the gluten-free version, that has a flaxseed cracker in place of the crustini. Next up is the Modern Lux plate. So this is the butter poached cauliflower. And put that there. Shot. So butter poached cauliflower. When we were tasting this dish, Luke was pretty determined to add pickled cauliflower because it didn't have enough texture, despite having the most ingredients. And he was right. So we went with it. That's why it's nice having a second chef around. So for most of you at home,
Or one chef. Most people don't make that.
well, right, but we have two, and that's kind of handy. It's a unique thing. Usually, the saying is there's too many chefs in the kitchen, but for us, it's like we work together really well. So I don't know that we have necessarily different domains or whatever, but there's a level of trust that, like, I'm going to hand you this, and you're going to do it, and it's going to be good, whichever way that's going. All right, so the butter poached cauliflower. So you're heating this up. This is the last dish that you're using the oven for. And you are just warming up the larger cauliflower pieces, or the loose cauliflower at the bottom of the black box. And there we go. So this is definitely like one of the most humble vegetables out there, but also happens to be a favorite for both of us because it tends to be underutilized, in my opinion. And I think in your opinion.
I agree with that.
This is the soubise, which is a puree of caramelized onion, cooked rice, and heavy cream. It's a simple French sauce. Sometimes you actually see it as a casserole. Julia Child used to make soubise casserole that was just like rice with onions and cream. And I mean, what could be better underneath roast chicken?
think one of the reasons cauliflower gets such a bad rap is because it's like cooked from frozen.
Yeah, it just gets soggy. Totally. Yeah.
No, I'm sure your mom's a great cook.
Your mom was not a great cook. My mom is a great cook.
My mom was not a great cook.
Yeah, so we have definitely different backgrounds, culinarily speaking.
It's part of the reason I think I was inspired to cook.
Right, both of my
I was
parents.
hungry.
You had to. I mean, I have 3 siblings, so I was also hungry, just inevitably. But it was less out of necessity and more out of like, I wonder what we could do and what else could that be. And that just question of possibilities was fun. So this is a take on luxury, which for some reason as humans we're always more interested in things that are monochromatic. Black and white photos always get more hits. It's just a thing. It feels more important for some reason. So we went with this kind of all white plating, which Luke does not love. I'll tell you that now. It needs something, right? But for me, it was like, okay, well, that's kind of fun and interesting, and it's not what you think of when you think of dinner. But it's beauty and simplicity here. And even though this is a mostly white plate, it is not bland by any means. We had 2 garnish elements here that kind of set this in contrast. The first is balsamic pearls, also known as balsamic caviar, not fish. This is just balsamic vinegar that we set into little pearls with some seaweed-based gelatin called agar. And it's an old school preparation. It was really popular in like, I don't know, the early 2000s when modern gastronomy or whatever. Molecular gastronomy, that's what I'm looking for, was all the rage. That was never my thing. But I do like to use hydrocolloids like agar in recipes when it makes sense. Not just because we can, but because it makes sense. So here we're using this to add a little bit of acid and contrast. We've got a lot of unctuousness happening on this plate with the cream and the butter. So this is adding in a little bit of sweetness and some acidity. And then we have, luckily you brought a knife. So inside of this little syringe is some mushroom fluid gel. And this is literally mushrooms that we buzzed down, thank you, pulsed down and then added salt to and let sit in a very low oven overnight to extract all of the liquid from those mushrooms. And then we set that with a little bit of the agar to make a thicker sauce so that you could kind of place spots of reduction and little hits of flavor. And this, again, not just the purpose of using hydrocolloid, but this adds umami in places where it might not be expected. And by not adding water to the liquid that comes from mushrooms all on their own, you're just getting pure concentrated flavor. So if you're not a fan of mushrooms, I would skip this part because it definitely tastes like mushrooms. But if you're just like one of those people who like the flavor and not the texture, this is for you. Yeah, texture of mushrooms is a big for people.
But that's about it because they're not cooked properly.
I mean, yes.
I want to get.
Oh yeah, okay, but it's not that. Like I desperately want to use everything on the plate. You have better height.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't quite like this in a restaurant because the servers
would knock that over.
Knock that over
Absolutely.
on the table.
Absolutely. And at home, you probably have larger pieces, so a little bit more of a landscape to create. Now we're testing me on whether or not I can hold those for the camera. But there's our plating.
It's sturdy. It's not falling over.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Chefs used to, when I was serving tables, one of my chefs built a log cabin out of French fries, and I was the server on the 3rd floor. Kitchen was in the basement, and he was like, "Do it." Why? Why do you get enjoyment? Like, even me as a chef, I don't get enjoyment out of torturing servers. A little bit. All right, last dish, dessert. So this is our grounded course. This brings everything back down, but in a good way, to a chocolate world instead of dirt. So there's a number of ways that you can get this out. You can scoop it. I'm going to flip it, because why not? Yeah. So this is to represent the earth, right? But in the most delicious way, not in a spinach type way, in a chocolate sort of way. And to this, we have a couple of different additions. We have some white chocolate cremeux, which is just a fancy word for pastry cream, but I like it better, so that's what we called it. Luke rolled his eyes when he read the recipe and was like, "This is pastry cream, what are you doing?" And then we've got saffron soil, which this is made with oat flour, and Luke made this. It's basically a sablé cookie that we infuse with saffron. It is relatively strong in saffron flavor, so I would taste a little bit of it before you add it to your plate. But this is just like you're walking in the forest and you happen upon, I don't know, a large little hill or something, a nice quiet place to stop and think for a moment. A lot of quiet reflection happening in this menu. Finally, this is the green tea moss. Again, relatively strong in the green tea flavor. This contains almond meal. That's the basis of that cookie. And yeah, see, this is how you get done faster than I do.
I was just realizing that you're doing all the time.
I'm doing all the talking, and you're over there.
Yeah, I take the head start.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're not cheating, you're not.
All right. So, feel free to use the cremeux in any sort of way that you see fit. I think our moss turned out a little bit more like lichen style looking than it did moss this time. But it depends on the type of tea you use and all sorts of different factors. There is a video on our Instagram at Dining Inside Out of Luke making the green tea moss. So if you'd like to see what that process looks like, you can check that out.
So chefs are like painters, only we use spoons for our paint.
Absolutely. And that was one of the reasons I didn't want to use tweezers for this, like intentionally, because it's like so often we get kind of pegged for using these fancy tools and having fancy knives, but it's not at all about that. Like, you never blame the tools. It's much more like, what can you do with a spoon and a fork? And that's usually enough. So I'm kind of pressing mine into the pave to give it that sort of moss growing up the stump look. I'll put the soil below. A little bit on top. Where it's supposed to be dirty.
Picasso never painted on frames. But
yeah, I can't
I go
because it
against
has that like texture.
This one's a little bit.
Yeah, it's difficult. Okay, so here is mine, and Luke went in a totally different direction, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's Luke's. So that's how we plated ours. Again, only 2 courses you're using the oven for. That's the potato course, course 1, and the cauliflower course, course 3. After you plate your cauliflower, turn the oven off, you're good. And the rest is served cold. We hope that you enjoyed the rest of the lecture. The art was beautiful. We loved making this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go around and do some close-ups real quick so people can see.
Great, cool. everybody.